Welcome back to Soil Doctor, where we dig deep into the science of growing extraordinary plants. Today I'm sharing the game-changing method that transformed my tomato growing from mediocre backyard attempts to producing restaurant-quality giants that have my neighbors asking for my secrets. After years of experimenting with different container systems, I've cracked the code on growing tomatoes in plastic bins with a soil formula that consistently delivers jaw-dropping results. Why plastic bins are actually superior to traditional pots. Let me start by addressing the elephant in the room. Why would anyone choose plastic storage bins over traditional terracotta pots or expensive grow bags? The answer lies in understanding what tomatoes actually need to thrive. These heavy feeders require massive root systems, consistent moisture levels, and soil that stays cool during scorching summer days. Standard pots, even large ones, simply don't provide the root volume that tomatoes crave. A typical 20-gallon pot might seem generous, but it's actually constraining your plant's potential. Plastic storage bins, particularly the 27-gallon or larger varieties, give you the soil volume of raised beds with the mobility and control of containers. The rectangular shape utilizes space more efficiently than round pots, and the additional width allows for better root spread. The thermal properties of plastic bins work in your favor too. Unlike dark pots that absorb heat and cook roots, properly set up plastic bins maintain more stable soil temperatures. This temperature stability is crucial because tomato roots shut down nutrient uptake when soil temperatures exceed 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which happens regularly in traditional containers during summer heat waves. The foundation formula that changes everything. Here's where most gardeners go wrong with container tomatoes. They treat the soil like it's going into the ground instead of understanding the unique requirements of container growing. My optimized soil formula has been refined through countless trials and soil tests, creating the perfect balance of drainage, nutrition, and water retention that tomatoes absolutely love. The base of this formula starts with high-quality potting mix, but not just any commercial blend. Look for mixes that contain both peat moss and coconut coir, as this combination provides superior water retention while maintaining the drainage that prevents root rot. Avoid mixes with large bark chunks, which create air pockets that dry out too quickly in containers. To every 2 parts of this base mix I add 1 part high-quality compost, but the type of compost matters enormously. Mushroom compost brings incredible water retention and slow-release nutrients, while aged chicken manure compost provides the nitrogen boost that tomatoes crave during their vigorous growth phase. The key is using compost that's been properly aged for at least 6 months. Fresh compost can actually burn your plants or tie up nitrogen as it continues decomposing. The secret ingredient that most gardeners never consider is biochar, which I add at about 10% of the total volume. This carbon-rich amendment creates microscopic homes for beneficial bacteria and fungi while improving both drainage and water retention simultaneously. It might seem contradictory, but biochar's unique structure allows excess water to drain away while holding on to just the right amount of moisture for consistent plant hydration. Supercharging your soil with strategic amendments. Raw soil mix, even a good one, won't support the explosive growth that tomatoes are capable of achieving. This is where targeted amendments transform ordinary soil into a tomato-growing powerhouse. Worm castings added at about 15% of your total volume provide gentle, slow-release nutrition that won't burn tender roots while supporting the soil biology that makes nutrients available to plants. Perlite or coarse vermiculite should comprise about 20% of your final mix to ensure proper drainage and air circulation around roots. Many gardeners skip this step, thinking their potting mix has enough drainage, but container growing requires more aggressive drainage than ground planting. Waterlogged soil kills more container tomatoes than drought ever will. The mineral component that most home growers overlook is rock dust, specifically granite dust or basalt rock dust. These amendments provide trace minerals that improve flavor intensity and plant health over the long growing season. Just 2 tablespoons per gallon of soil mix supplies micronutrients that synthetic fertilizers simply can't match. For the finishing touch, I incorporate slow-release organic fertilizer specifically formulated for tomatoes, mixing it thoroughly throughout the soil rather than top dressing later. This ensures consistent nutrition availability from the moment transplants go into their new homes. Look for fertilizers with calcium included, as calcium deficiency shows up as blossom end rot just when your tomatoes are sizing up. Container setup secrets for maximum production. The physical setup of your plastic bin system can make or break your success, and there are specific modifications that dramatically improve performance. Drainage is absolutely critical, but most gardeners don't create enough drain holes or place them correctly. I drill half-inch holes every 4 inches around the bottom perimeter, plus several in the center. This might seem excessive, but remember that proper drainage prevents more container growing failures than any other single factor. Elevating your bins on blocks or a simple wooden frame serves multiple purposes beyond just improving drainage. This elevation creates air circulation underneath the container, which helps regulate soil temperature and prevents the bottom from becoming waterlogged during heavy rains. The improved air circulation also reduces the likelihood of pest issues that thrive in stagnant, moist conditions. The soil depth in your bins matters more than you might expect. Tomatoes need at least 18 inches of soil depth for proper root development, but going deeper to 24 inches transforms plant performance. This extra depth allows roots to access cooler soil during heat stress and provides more nutrient reserves during heavy fruiting periods. One modification that experienced growers swear by is creating a water reservoir system in the bottom few inches of the bin. Layer coarse gravel or expanded clay pellets in the bottom, separated from your soil mixed by landscape fabric. This reservoir system provides consistent moisture during dry spells while preventing waterlogging during wet periods. The transplanting technique that prevents shock. How you transition your tomato seedlings into their new plastic bin homes determines whether they'll thrive or merely survive. Timing this transition correctly requires understanding both your local weather patterns and your plant's development stage. Seedlings should have their second set of true leaves fully developed and be showing vigorous growth before making the move. The secret to shock-free transplanting lies in soil temperature matching. Your bin soil should be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit before transplanting, which often means setting up your bins a week or two before transplant day. Covering bins with clear plastic sheeting during cool spring days helps achieve proper soil warming without heating costs. When actually planting, bury your tomato stems deeper than you would in ground planting. In containers, you can safely bury up to 2/3 of the stem, including some lower leaf nodes. These buried nodes will develop into additional roots, creating a more robust root system that supports better nutrient uptake and drought tolerance throughout the growing season. Water your transplants with a diluted seaweed fertilizer solution rather than plain water. This gentle feeding helps plants recover from transplant stress while providing the trace minerals that support strong root establishment. The hormones naturally present in seaweed extracts actually stimulate root growth, giving your plants a head start in their new environment. Ongoing care that maximizes your investment container. Tomatoes require different maintenance than ground-planted ones, and understanding these differences separates successful growers from frustrated ones. Watering becomes the most critical skill to master, as containers dry out faster than garden beds, but also become waterlogged more easily during rainy periods. The key to proper container watering is consistency rather than volume. Daily watering during hot weather might be necessary, but the goal is maintaining even soil moisture rather than alternating between bone-dry and soaking wet conditions. This consistency prevents the calcium uptake issues that cause blossom end rot, and the skin splitting that ruins otherwise perfect tomatoes. Feeding container tomatoes requires a more intensive approach than ground planting. The limited soil volume means nutrients become depleted more quickly, especially during heavy fruiting periods. I feed my bin tomatoes weekly with a balanced liquid fertilizer, alternating between fish emulsion for nitrogen and kelp meal tea for potassium and trace minerals. Temperature management becomes crucial during summer heat waves. Containers heat up faster than garden soil, potentially stress cooking your plant's roots. Mulching the soil surface helps, but you can also wrap bins in reflective material or paint them light colors to reduce heat absorption. Some growers create shade structures over their bins during the hottest part of summer. Troubleshooting common container growing challenges. Even with perfect soil and setup, container tomatoes present unique challenges that ground-grown plants don't face. Recognizing and addressing these issues quickly prevents minor problems from becoming harvest-destroying disasters. Nutrient deficiencies show up faster in containers, but they're also easier to correct with targeted feeding. Yellowing lower leaves often indicate nitrogen deficiency, which responds quickly to fish emulsion feeding. Purple leaf undersides usually signal phosphorus deficiency, common in cooler soil conditions. Boosting soil temperature and adding bone meal addresses this issue effectively. Blossom end rot, that dreaded black spot on tomato bottoms, stems from calcium uptake issues rather than calcium deficiency in the soil. Inconsistent watering is the usual culprit, as plants can't absorb calcium when soil moisture fluctuates wildly. Maintaining consistent soil moisture and ensuring proper drainage prevents this heartbreaking problem. Pest management in containers requires vigilance but offers more control options than ground planting. Beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings can be purchased and released directly onto your plants. Companion planting works excellently in large bins. Basil, marigolds, and nasturtiums all provide pest deterrent effects while maximizing space utilization. Harvesting success and planning for next season. When your optimized soil formula and proper container setup come together, the results speak for themselves through increased yields, better fruit quality, and extended harvesting seasons. Container-grown tomatoes often produce later into fall than ground-planted ones because you can move bins to protected areas during early frost warnings. Proper harvest timing becomes even more critical with the intensive production that this system generates. Pick tomatoes when they show the first blush of color rather than waiting for full ripeness on the vine. This approach encourages continued production while preventing overripe fruit from attracting pests or developing splitting issues. At season's end, don't discard your soil mix. With proper amendments, it can be rejuvenated for next year's growing season. Remove old root systems, add fresh compost and slow-release fertilizer, and you've got the foundation for another successful growing season. This sustainability aspect makes container growing more economical than many gardeners realize. Your next steps to tomato growing success. The transformation from struggling with disappointing container tomatoes to harvesting restaurant-quality fruit starts with implementing these soil optimization strategies. Begin with 1 or 2 bins to master the techniques before scaling up to larger production. Document your results, noting what works best in your specific climate and with your preferred tomato varieties. Your fellow gardeners need to see these results. Share this video with anyone who's frustrated with container growing, and don't forget to subscribe to Soil Doctor for more science-based growing strategies that actually work. Drop your questions and success stories in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing about your growing triumphs.